Jake Morrison walked down the long metal hallway toward the great chamber. His black suit felt too tight around his neck. The tie made it hard to breathe, but he had to look perfect today. This was the most important day in human history. Walls around him were made of some kind of crystal that glowed with soft blue light. Everything here was beautiful and clean. Nothing like the dirty cities back on Earth. The air smelled like flowers he had never seen before. Strange music played from somewhere he could not see. Jake carried a small black case in his left hand. Inside were all the papers and files that showed what humans had done. Pictures of their rockets, videos of their space stations, reports about their computers and machines. Everything that proved humans were ready to join the galaxy. A tall alien walked beside him. It looked like a person, but had blue skin and forearms. Its name was something Jake could not say right. It made clicking sounds when it talked. "The council waits for you," the alien said. Its voice sounded like wind through metal pipes. "You must not take too long. They have many important things to discuss today." Jake nodded. He knew the aliens thought humans were not important. They made that clear from the start. But he hoped today would change their minds. The hallway ended at two huge doors. They were taller than any building Jake had ever seen. Strange symbols covered them from top to bottom. The symbols glowed and moved like they were alive. The doors opened without any sound. Jake walked into the biggest room he had ever seen. The ceiling was so high he could not see it. Thousands of seats filled the space in front of him. And in every seat sat a different kind of alien. Some aliens looked like giant insects with hard shells and too many eyes. Others floated in the air, inside glass balls filled with colorful gas. Some were so tall they had to bend their necks to fit in the room. Others were so small Jake could barely see them. But they all had one thing in common. They all looked at Jake like he was a child who had walked into a room full of adults. Jake walked to the center of the room. A round platform waited for him. There, as soon as he stepped on it, the platform lifted him up so everyone could see him better. Bright lights came on from all sides. He felt like a bug under a magnifying glass. A voice spoke from everywhere at once. It was deep and loud and made Jake's chest shake. "Human representative," the voice said. "You have asked to speak to the Galactic Council. You claim your species is ready to join our community. We will listen to what you have to say." Jake opened his case and took out his papers. His hands shook a little, but he tried not to show it. He looked up at all the alien faces staring down at him. "Thank you for letting me speak," Jake said. His voice sounded small in the huge room. "I am Jake Morrison. I speak for all humans on Earth. We want to join your galactic community. We want to learn from you and help make the galaxy a better place." A sound came from the aliens. It took Jake a moment to understand what it was. They were laughing. Not the good kind of laughing you do when something is funny. The mean kind of laughing you do when you think something is stupid. Jake felt his face get hot, but he kept going. "Humans have done many great things," he said louder. "We have learned to split the atom. We have built machines that can think. We have traveled to our moon and other planets. We have created medicines that cure diseases that used to kill millions of people." One of the big insect aliens stood up. It was twice as tall as Jake and had 6 arms. When it spoke, its voice buzzed like 1,000 bees. "Child species," it said. "You play with fire and think you are gods. Your atom splitting creates weapons that could destroy your own world. Your thinking machines are toys compared to true artificial minds. Your moon trips are like a baby taking its first steps." Another alien floated down from the high seats. This one looked like it was made of light and energy. It had no solid body that Jake could see. "We have watched your species for many of your Years, the light alien said. Its voice sounded like singing crystal. You fight wars over small pieces of land. You poison your own air and water. You cannot even agree among yourselves about simple things. How can you help a galaxy when you cannot help your own planet? More aliens began to speak. Each one pointed out something wrong with humans. They talked about Earth's wars and pollution. They talked about human greed and anger. They talked about how young and stupid humans were compared to species that had existed for millions of years. Jake listened to it all. Each word felt like a punch to his stomach. But he had expected this. Everyone back on Earth had warned him. This would happen. The aliens thought they were better than humans. They thought humans were just clever animals. When the aliens finally stopped talking, Jake took a deep breath. He held up one of his papers. "You are right about many things," he said. "Humans are young. We do make mistakes. We do fight and argue, and sometimes hurt our own world. But that is not the whole story." He pressed a button on his case. Pictures appeared in the air above him. Pictures of human cities and farms and schools. Pictures of human art and music and books. "Humans also create beautiful things," Jake said. "We write stories that make people cry. We make music that touches the heart. We paint pictures that show the beauty we see in the world. We take care of children and old people. We help strangers who need food or shelter." The aliens watched the pictures, but did not seem impressed. Jake pressed another button. New pictures appeared. These showed human scientists and doctors and teachers. "We learn fast," Jake said. "Faster than any species you have ever seen. In just 100 years, we went from riding horses to flying in space. We went from using candles for light to creating computers that can solve any problem. We went from dying of simple cuts to performing surgery on the human heart." One of the ancient-looking aliens made a sound like rocks grinding together. It had been alive for thousands of years and looked like a pile of moving stones. "Speed means nothing without wisdom," it said. "A fire burns fast, but destroys everything it touches. Your species is like that fire. You change too quickly. You do not think about the results of your actions. You will burn yourselves out before you mature." Jake felt something change inside him. The fear was still there, but now it mixed with something stronger. Anger. Not the wild kind of anger that makes you do stupid things. The cold kind of anger that makes you focus and think clearly. "Maybe you are right," Jake said. "Maybe humans are like fire. But fire also gives warmth to those who are cold. Fire also gives light to those who are lost in darkness. Fire also powers the engines that take us to the stars." He looked around the room at all the alien faces. Some looked bored. Others looked annoyed. A few looked curious about what he would say next. "You have all had thousands or millions of years to become what you are," Jake continued. "You have had time to make all your mistakes and learn from them. Humans have had much less time. But we are still here. We are still growing. We are still learning." The buzzing insect alien made a dismissive sound. "Learning is for children," it said. "Adults already know what they need to know." Jake smiled for the first time since entering the room. "Then maybe the galaxy needs more children," he said. The room went quiet. The aliens looked at each other. Jake could not read their expressions, but he could feel the tension in the air. The deep voice spoke again from everywhere at once. "Council will vote," it said. "All in favor of accepting humanity into the galactic community raise their appendages now." Jake looked around the room. He counted the raised hands and claws and tentacles. There were maybe 20 out of thousands. All opposed to accepting humanity raised their appendages now. The room filled with raised appendages of every kind. Jake stopped counting after the first 100. "The vote is complete," the voice announced. "Humanity's application for galactic citizenship is rejected." You may reapply in 1000 Earth. Years when your species has matured beyond its current primitive state. Jake nodded slowly. He put his papers back in his case and closed it with a soft click. Thank you for your time, he said. I hope when we meet again, you will remember this day. As Jake walked back down the long crystal hallway, the four-armed alien walked beside him again. Do not feel bad, it said in its windpipe voice. Most species are rejected the first time. Some take many thousands of years to be accepted. Jake stopped walking and looked at the alien. How long did it take your species to be accepted? He asked. 15,000 years, the alien replied proudly. Jake started walking again. Under his breath, so quietly that only he could hear, he whispered something that would prove to be very important later. We do not have 15,000 years to wait. 6 months had passed since Jake Morrison returned to Earth with the bad news. The Alien Council had laughed at humans and said they were too young and stupid to join the galaxy. But Jake had not been sitting around feeling sorry for himself. Deep under the desert in Nevada, a secret meeting was about to start. The room was carved out of solid rock hundreds of feet below the ground. No alien satellites could see this place. No alien listening devices could hear what was said here. Dr. Ben Hayes walked into the room, carrying a thick folder full of papers. He was a thin man with gray hair and tired eyes, but his eyes also held something else. A kind of excitement that came from knowing secrets that could change the world. Behind him came other people from all over Earth. Dr. Amy Chun had flown in from Beijing. She was young, but already one of the smartest people alive when it came to quantum physics. Colonel Ryan Murphy came from Europe. He knew more about military strategy than almost anyone. Dr. Carlos Santos arrived from Brazil. He could build machines that other people said were impossible. They all sat around a metal table in the middle of the rock room. The only light came from bulbs hanging from the ceiling. It felt like they were meeting in a cave. In a way, they were. Thank you all for coming, Ben said. He opened his folder and spread papers across the table. As you know, the aliens rejected us. They think we are children playing with dangerous toys. Amy Chun leaned forward. Did they really say that? Close enough, Ben replied. They think our technology is primitive. They think our weapons are crude. They think we could never defend ourselves in a galactic war. Ryan Murphy smiled. It was not a friendly smile. They might be surprised. Ben nodded. That is why we are here. For the past 5 years, while Jake was preparing his presentation to the Alien Council, we have been working on something else, something the aliens do not know about. He pulled out a photograph and placed it in the center of the table. It showed a piece of twisted metal about the size of a car. The metal had strange markings on it and seemed to bend light in impossible ways. This is what started everything, Ben said. Roswell, 1947, but it was not the only crash. Over the past 70 years, we have recovered pieces of alien technology from 14 different crash sites around the world. Carlos Santos picked up the photograph. I thought those were just stories. The public stories are fake, Ben said. But the crashes were real. Small alien ships, probably scouts or research vessels. Most of the technology was too damaged to understand, but some pieces gave us clues. Amy Chun was already looking at other papers from the folder. Her eyes grew wide as she read. This is incredible, she whispered. These equations show how they manipulate space and time. But the math is all wrong according to what we know. That is exactly right, Ben said. The aliens use one way to bend space. They create gravity wells that pull space toward them. It works, but it takes enormous amounts of energy and very big machines. He pulled out another paper covered with equations. That hurt to look at. But humans found a different way, he continued. Instead of pulling space toward us, we found how to fold it. Like folding a piece of paper so two distant points touch each other. Ryan Murphy frowned. I do not understand the science, but I understand results. What can this folding do? Ben smiled. It can do things the aliens never dreamed of. We can create doorways that connect any 2 points in space instantly. We can make our ships appear and disappear faster than they can track. We can put weapons inside their ships without ever breaking through their shields. He stood up and walked to a metal door on the far side of the room. When he opened it, bright light poured in. Beyond the door was another room, but this one was huge. It stretched farther than they could see in any direction. Welcome to Project Prometheus, Ben said. They walked through the door into the massive underground space. The room was so big it had its own weather. Clouds floated near the ceiling. In the distance, they could see rain falling, but what took their breath away were the ships. Dozens of spacecraft filled the enormous hangar. They were not like the rockets humans used to reach the moon. These ships were sleek and dark, with curves that seemed to flow like water. They looked fast even while sitting still. My God, Carlos whispered. How long have you been building these? 15 years, Ben replied. Ever since we figured out how to fold space. Each ship is smaller than the alien vessels we have seen. But size does not matter when you can appear anywhere you want instantly. Amy Chun was staring at one of the ships with her mouth open. The power source. How do you generate enough energy to fold space? Ben led them to the nearest ship. Up close, they could see that its hull was covered with tiny holes arranged in complex patterns. We do not generate the energy, he said. We borrow it. Those holes connect to the quantum foam that exists everywhere in the universe. We tap into the energy that creates and destroys particles billions of times per second. That should be impossible, Amy said. The aliens think it is impossible too, Ben replied. Their science is millions of years old. They stopped looking for new ways to do things a long time ago. But humans are still curious. We still ask stupid questions like, what if and why not? Colonel Murphy was examining the weapons mounted on the ship's hull. They did not look like any weapons he had ever seen. These are not laser cannons, he said. No, Ben agreed. Lasers are energy weapons. The aliens have shields that can stop energy, but they cannot stop matter moving very fast. He pointed to a long tube attached to the ship's side. Railgun, he said. It uses magnetic fields to fire. Metal slugs at 30% of light speed. When something hits you that fast, shields do not matter. The slug goes right through, like the shield is not even there. And this? Murphy pointed to a smaller device that looked like a satellite. Dish. Wormhole generator. Ben said casually, like he was talking about a flashlight. It opens small holes in space inside enemy ships. The holes close after a few seconds, but they take pieces of the ship with them when they collapse. Amy Chun sat down hard on a nearby crate. Her face was pale. This changes everything, she said. With technology like this, humans could fight against any alien species. That is the idea, Ben said. The aliens think we are weak because we are young. They think our weapons are primitive because they are different from alien weapons. They have never fought an enemy that uses kinetic weapons and folded space. Carlos Santos was walking around the ship, running his hands along the hull. How many ships do you have? He asked. 50 combat vessels are ready now, Ben replied. We can build 10 more per month. Each ship has a crew of 12 people. That is not very many, Murphy said. The aliens have fleets of thousands of ships. Ben smiled again. It was a confident smile this time. They need thousands of ships because their weapons and tactics are predictable. Every alien species fights the same way. Energy weapons, gravity manipulators, big slow ships that fight in formation. He gestured to the sleek human ships around them. But no one has ever fought ships that can appear instantly. No one has ever faced weapons that ignore shields completely. No one has ever tried to defend against attacks that come from inside their own vessels. Amy Chun stood up again. She was starting to understand. You are not trying to match their technology, she said. You are using completely different technology that makes their advantages meaningless. Exactly, Ben said. It is like bringing guns to a sword fight, except they do not know what guns are. Colonel Murphy was nodding slowly. This could work, but we would need to test it in real combat to be sure. We might get that chance sooner than you think, Ben said quietly. He led them to a computer terminal at the side of the hangar. The screen showed a map of the local part of the galaxy. Red dots were scattered across it, and more red dots were appearing as they watched. Our deep space sensors have been picking up strange signals for the past month, Ben said. Something big is moving through space toward this part of the galaxy. The alien communication networks are going crazy with emergency messages. Amy Chung leaned closer to the screen. What kind of signals? The kind that comes from ships. Lots and lots of ships. Coming from outside the galaxy. Carlos Santos felt a chill run down his spine. Are they coming here? We do not know yet, Ben said. But the alien fleets are mobilizing. Every species is pulling their ships back to defend their home worlds. That only happens when something really bad is coming. Colonel Murphy crossed his arms. How bad? Ben turned to look at all of them. His tired eyes were completely serious now. The kind of bad that makes entire civilizations disappear. The room went quiet except for the distant sound of rain falling from the artificial clouds above. Each person was thinking about what this meant. Earth was not part of the galactic community. If something attacked the galaxy, no one would come to help humans. But maybe humans did not need help. Amy Chun broke the silence. When will we know more? Soon, Ben said. Our scouts are already moving into position. If something is coming, we will see it before the aliens do. And then what? Carlos asked. Ben looked at the ships surrounding them. 50 vessels built with technology the galaxy had never seen. Crewed by humans who had nothing to lose and everything to prove. Then, we show them what happens when you laugh at humans, he said. The first alien world to disappear was called Theta 7. It was a mining planet on the edge of the galaxy where the Kelthron had built huge machines to dig precious metals from the ground. The planet had 3 million workers living in underground cities. When the emergency signal came, it lasted only 12 seconds. Help us, the message said in the ancient Kelthran language. They are everywhere. The ships are too many to count. They are eating our machines. They are eating our cities. They are eating everything. Then silence. On Zephyria Prime, the Galactic Council met in emergency session for the 3rd time in 2 weeks. High Counselor Zithrak stood at the center of the great chamber, but he did not look proud and confident like before. His hard shell was cracked in several places from stress. His many eyes darted back and forth as he spoke. The threat is confirmed, he announced to the assembled representatives. The harvesters have returned. A sound went through the chamber like wind through dead leaves. It was the sound of fear from dozens of different species all at once. Even the ancient Kelthran, who had lived for thousands of years, made worried. Clicking noises with their thought crystals. Counselor Vastila of the Luminari floated down from her high seat. Her energy body flickered like a candle in the wind. How many ships? She asked, though her voice suggested she did not want to know the answer. Our long-range sensors count at least 10,000 vessels, Zethrak replied. But they may be more. The harvester ships are difficult to count individually. Elder Kothmiran of the Kelthran spoke through his crystal device. His voice sounded like rocks grinding together, but now it also sounded afraid. The last time the harvesters came was 8,000 years ago, he said. They consumed 47 star systems before we drove them back, but we were stronger then. We had more ships, more weapons, more unity among the species. What do they want? Asked a representative from the Nexare collective. Her people were traders who had never fought a real war. They want everything, Kothmirin replied. The harvesters do not trade or negotiate. They consume. They eat metal and energy and flesh. They turn everything they find into more ships, more weapons, more harvesters. Zethrak activated a holographic display in the center of the chamber. It showed a three-dimensional map of the galaxy with red dots marking harvester positions. They are moving inward from the rim, he said. Theta 7 was just the beginning. Intelligence reports suggest they will reach the Vorthic border colonies within 6 days. The Vorthic representative, a creature that looked like a giant praying mantis made of metal, stood up on its 4 legs. The Vorthic battle fleet is already moving to intercept, it said in its buzzing voice. Our ships are fast and our weapons are strong. We will stop them at the Kepler Nebula. Some of the other representatives made approving sounds. The Vorthic were known as the best warriors in the galaxy. Their ships had won every battle they had fought for the past 1,000 years. But Elder Kothmirin did not look hopeful. The harvesters learn, he said quietly. Every time we fight them, they study our weapons and our tactics. And they adapt. What worked 8,000 years ago will not work now. Then we must try new tactics, said the luminary representative. What? New tactics? Kothmirin asked. We have been using the same weapons and strategies for millions of years. Gravity manipulation, energy projection, shield technology. This is how civilized species fight wars. The chamber fell quiet. No one had a good answer. 3 days later, the Vorthic battle fleet met the harvesters at the edge of the Kepler Nebula. Admiral Krekstar commanded the Vorthic forces from his flagship, the Blade of Justice. It was a massive ship, 3 miles, long and armed with the most powerful weapons the Vorthic could build. Around it sailed 200 other Vorthic vessels, each one a masterpiece of military engineering. The harvester fleet looked like a swarm of insects against the stars. Each ship was different, built from the remains of whatever they had consumed. Some looked like twisted metal spiders. Others resembled giant forms made of steel and flesh. All of them moved with a hunger that made experienced soldiers feel sick. All ships prepare to engage, Admiral Krekstar ordered. Show them the strength of the Vorthic. A battle began with a massive barrage of energy weapons. The Vorthic ships fired beams of pure force that could crack planets in half. The space around the harvesters lit up like a new sun. But when the light faded, the harvester ships were still there. Not only were they undamaged, they seemed to have grown larger. Impossible, Krekstar whispered Dot, then the harvesters fired back. Their weapons were unlike anything in the galactic databases. Instead of energy beams, they shot clouds of tiny machines that ate through ship hulls like acid. Instead of gravity, bombs, they fired devices that turned the target's own power systems against itself. The Vorthic shields, which had never failed in battle, began to flicker and die. The harvester weapons seemed designed specifically to counter Vorthic technology. Retreat, Admiral Krekstar ordered. All ships, fall back to defensive positions. But it was too late. The harvester ships moved faster than anything that size should be able to move. They swarmed around the Vorthic fleet like predators around. Wounded prey. Of the 201 Vorthic ships that entered the battle, only 12 escaped. The news reached Zephyria Prime within hours. The Galactic Council chamber was filled with the sounds of panic from representatives who had never known defeat. "How is this possible?" demanded the Nexari representative. "The Vorthic fleet was the strongest in the galaxy." Elder Koth-Mirans. Dot crystals glowed with a dark light. "As I said, the harvesters learn," he replied. "They have had 8,000 years to study our tactics. They know exactly how we fight and how to counter everything we do." High Counselor Zethrak looked older than his many years. "What are our options?" he asked. "We combine all our fleets," suggested the luminary representative. "Every ship from every species. They cannot have adapted to all of us at once." "They do not need to adapt to all of us," Koth-Miran said sadly. "We all use the same basic technologies. Energy weapons, gravity manipulation, shield generators. The harvesters have seen it all before." The chamber erupted in arguments. Some representatives wanted to fight to the last ship. Others suggested trying to negotiate with the harvesters. A few talked about evacuating to other galaxies. In the middle of all the shouting, a communication device began to beep. It was the emergency channel reserved for the most urgent messages. Zethrak activated the device. A holographic image appeared, showing Jake Morrison sitting in what looked like a simple Earth office. The chamber fell silent. They had all forgotten about the primitive human who had asked to join their community 6 months ago. "Honorable counselors," Jake said politely, "I have been monitoring your emergency broadcasts. I understand you are facing a serious threat." Several representatives made dismissive sounds. The idea that humans could help with a galactic crisis seemed ridiculous. "I know you rejected our membership application," Jake continued, "but humanity would like to offer assistance in your fight against the harvesters." The buzzing laugh of the Vorthic representative filled the chamber. "What help could your primitive species possibly offer?" it demanded. "Our greatest fleet has been destroyed. What can a few human rockets do that Vorthic battleships could not?" Jake smiled. It was a patient smile, like a teacher talking to a difficult student. "Perhaps our rockets are not as primitive as you think," he said. Zethrak leaned forward. Something in the human's voice made him curious. "What exactly are you offering?" The High Counselor asked. "Information," Jake replied. "Our deep space sensors have been tracking the harvester fleet. We know things about their movements and tactics that might interest you." "Impossible," snapped the luminary representative. "Human technology cannot match our sensor networks." "Perhaps not," Jake said, "but human sensors work differently than yours. We see things you might miss." He pressed something outside the camera's view. New information appeared on the Council's main display. It showed detailed scans of individual harvester ships, including internal structures that no galactic sensor had ever detected. The chamber went quiet again. This time, it was not the silence of dismissal. It was the silence of surprise. "How did you obtain this data?" Zethrak asked slowly. "Humans are good at watching and learning," Jake replied. "We have been studying the harvester fleet since it first appeared on our sensors." Elder Koth-Miran's crystals pulsed with interest. "What have you learned?" he asked. Jake's smile grew wider. "We have learned that the harvesters have a weakness," he said, "something they have never encountered before. Something that all your millions of years of galactic warfare never discovered." The representatives looked at each other with expressions of hope and doubt mixed together. "What weakness?" Zethrak demanded. "They have never fought an enemy that thinks like humans," Jake said simply. Before anyone could respond, alarms began ringing throughout the council chamber. Emergency lights flashed red and blue. A mechanical voice announced the news that everyone had been dreading. "Harvester fleet has entered the Arcturus system. Arcturus defense forces are requesting immediate assistance. Estimated time to total. System consumption, 18 hours. Jake Morrison looked directly at High Counselor Zethrak through the communication link. High Counselor Zethrak stared at Jake Morrison's image on the communication screen. Around him, the Galactic Council chamber buzzed with desperate voices. Representatives from dozens of species argued about what to do. Some still thought accepting human help was beneath them. Others were ready to try anything. "You say your species can help," Zethrak said slowly. "But your ships are primitive. Your weapons are crude. How can you succeed where the mighty Vorthik failed?" Jake's smile never wavered. "Because we do not fight like the Vorthik. We do not fight like anyone you have ever seen." Elder Koth Mirren's crystal device glowed brighter. "Explain." "All galactic species fight the same way," Jake said. "Big ships, energy weapons, shields, gravity bombs. You have used these tactics for millions of years. The harvesters have studied these tactics for millions of years." He paused and looked directly at the camera. "But humans only learned about space warfare 50 years ago. We never learned your rules, so we made up our own rules." The Vorthik representative, one of the few survivors from the destroyed fleet, made an angry buzzing sound. "Rules do not matter when facing superior force," it said. "The harvesters have more ships, bigger weapons, stronger defenses. How do your different rules change that?" "Let me show you," Jake replied. He pressed something off screen. The Council's main display changed to show a view of space near the Arcturus system. Hundreds of harvester ships were moving toward the planets like a dark cloud. "Your sensors show the harvester fleet, correct?" Jake asked. "Obviously," snapped the luminary representative. "Now watch our sensors." The display changed. This time it showed the same area of space, but the image was completely different. The human sensors revealed details that galactic technology could not see. They showed energy patterns inside the harvester ships. They showed weak points in their armor. Most importantly, they showed something else. "There," Jake pointed to several spots on the display. "Do you see those empty areas?" Zethrak looked closer. Between the harvester ships were spaces that seemed completely empty on galactic sensors. But the human sensors showed faint energy signatures in those spaces. "What are we looking at?" he asked. "Cloaked human ships," Jake said simply. The chamber went completely silent. Not one representative made a sound. "Impossible," whispered the Nexari delegate. "Cloaking technology does not exist. We have tried for thousands of years to develop it." "You tried to bend light around ships using energy fields," Jake said. "That requires enormous power and creates detectable distortions. We use a different method." Dr. Amy Chun appeared on the screen next to Jake. She looked nervous but excited. "Human cloaking uses quantum folding," she explained. "We do not bend light around our ships. We fold space so the ships exist in a slightly different dimension. To your sensors, they are simply not there." Elder Kothmiren's crystals pulsed rapidly. "How many ships?" 50 combat vessels are already in position around the harvester fleet," Jake replied. "Each ship has a crew of 12 humans. That is 600 people total." The Vorthik representative made a sound like grinding metal. 600 people against 10,000 harvester ships? "This is madness." "Maybe," Jake agreed. "But madness sometimes works when sanity fails." On the display, the human sensors showed the cloaked ships moving closer to the harvester fleet. They moved in patterns that made no sense according to galactic military doctrine. Instead of forming battle lines, they spread out randomly. Instead of grouping together for mutual support, they operated independently. "Your tactics are chaos," observed the luminary representative. "Our tactics are unpredictable," Jake corrected. "The harvesters can adapt to organized patterns. They cannot adapt to true randomness." Suddenly, alarms began ringing in the council chamber. A communication came in from the Arcturus system. "This is Admiral Texcor of the Arcturus Defense Force," a panicked voice announced. "The harvesters are beginning their attack. We have maybe 6 hours before the planets are completely consumed. Where is the support fleet?" Zethrak looked at the other council members. They had no support fleet to send. Every available ship was defending whole worlds. "Tell them help is coming," Jake said quietly. "What help?" Zethrak demanded. "Your 50 ships cannot save an entire star system." "Watch," Jake said. On the human sensor display, tiny dots began appearing near the harvester ships. The dots were so small, they were barely visible. "What are those?" asked the Nexari representative. "Wormholes," Amy-chan replied. "Very small ones, each about the size of a marble." "What good are marble-sized wormholes?" scoffed the Vorthic survivor. Jake's smile turned cold. "You are about to find out." The first harvester ship to be attacked was a massive vessel that looked like a mechanical spider. It was 3 miles long and covered with weapons that could destroy planets. Its shields were strong enough to stop any energy weapon the galaxy could produce. The marble-sized wormhole appeared inside the ship's main reactor. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then the reactor began to tear itself apart from the inside. The wormhole was small, but it connected to the vacuum of deep space. All the energy and matter from the reactor was being sucked through the tiny hole dot. The great harvester ship twisted and buckled as its own power source destroyed it from within. In less than 30 seconds, the 3-mile vessel broke apart and died. The council chamber watched in stunned silence as more small wormholes appeared inside other harvester ships. Reactors exploded. Life support systems failed. Command centers were torn apart by sudden decompression. "Impossible," breathed Elder Kothnirin. "Nothing can penetrate harvester defenses." "Nothing can penetrate them from outside," Jake agreed. "But we are not attacking from outside." The harvester fleet began to react. Their ships turned and fired in all directions, trying to find the invisible attackers. But their weapons hit nothing but empty space. The human ships were cloaked and constantly moving through folded space. "They cannot target what they cannot see," Amy-chan explained. "And our ships never stay in the same place long enough to be tracked." More harvester ships began dying. But instead of the slow, organized destruction of a normal space battle, this looked like chaos. Ships exploded randomly throughout the fleet. There was no pattern, no logic that the harvesters could understand or adapt to. "Your people are inside." "Their formation," observed the luminary representative. "That should be suicide." "Only if they can shoot back," Jake replied. "But they do not know where we are." Captain Steve Parker's voice came through the communication system. He was commanding the human fleet from his ship, the Terra Nova. "Enemy formation is breaking apart," he reported. "They are trying to scatter, but we are staying with them. No escape routes." The harvester ships, which had moved in perfect coordination before, were now flying in panic. Some tried to flee. Others tried to form defensive circles. Nothing worked against an enemy they could not see or predict. "Unit 7, target the command ship," Steve ordered. "Use the heavy railgun." On the display, they watched as a massive harvester vessel, larger than any other ship in the fleet, suddenly shuddered. A hole appeared in its side, perfectly round and clean. Then another hole appeared. Then another. "What kind of weapons create holes like that?" asked Zethrak. "Kinetic penetrators," Jake replied. "Metal slugs fired at 30% of light speed. They pass through shields like the shields are not there." The great command ship tried to turn and flee, but more holes appeared all along its hull. Whatever was inside those ships was being systematically destroyed by weapons that moved too fast to stop. "The harvesters are retreating," reported Captain Parker. "Remaining ships are attempting to jump to hyperspace." "Let them go," Jake ordered, "but follow them." I want to know where they are running to. Within an hour, the space around Arcturus was clear. Floating debris from destroyed harvester ships drifted slowly among the stars. The planets were safe. In the council chamber, no one spoke for a long time. They had just watched 600 humans destroy a fleet that had crushed the galaxy's greatest military force. Finally, Elder Kothmirin broke the silence. "How?" he asked simply. "Humans think differently," Jake replied. "When we saw the harvester technology, we did not try to build bigger versions of our own weapons. We asked a different question." "What question?" Zethrock asked. "We asked, what would happen if we ignored all the rules of galactic warfare and fought like humans instead?" The Vorthic representative leaned forward. Its mechanical voice was quiet now, respectful. "What do you mean, fought like humans?" Jake looked around the chamber at all the alien faces staring at him. "Humans have been fighting wars for thousands of years," he said, "but we never had energy shields or gravity weapons. So we learned to win by being faster, smarter, and more unpredictable than our enemies." He gestured to the display, showing the debris of the Harvester fleet. "The Harvesters adapted to fight civilized galactic warfare. But humans are not civilized. We are creative. We are chaotic. We break rules that other species did not even know existed." Amy Chan added, "Every galactic species fights the same way. Because you all learned from each other. You shared knowledge and standardized your tactics. But humans developed in isolation. Our warfare evolved differently." High Counselor Zethrock stood up slowly. His cracked shell was still damaged from stress, but his posture was different now. 3 days after the battle at Arcturus, Jake Morrison walked into the Galactic Council chamber again. But this time, everything was different. The same crystal walls glowed with the same soft blue light. The same alien representatives sat in their seats. But the way they looked at him had completely changed. Where before there had been amusement and dismissal, now there was respect. Where before there had been laughter, now there was careful attention. The human who had been treated like a child was now being welcomed as an equal. High Counselor Zethrock stood as Jake approached the center platform. His cracked shell had been repaired with golden metal that gleamed under the chamber lights. "Ambassador Morrison," Zethrak said formally, "the Galactic Council welcomes humanity as our newest member civilization. Your species has earned its place through courage, innovation, and sacrifice." Jake nodded politely. "Thank you, Counselor. But the battle is not over yet." A murmur went through the chamber. The Harvester fleet at Arcturus had been destroyed completely. What more could there be? Elder Kothmirin's thought crystals pulsed with concern. "What do you mean?" "The ships we destroyed were only a scouting force," Jake explained. "Our deep space sensors have detected the main Harvester fleet. It is much larger than what you faced before." He activated his portable display device. A 3-dimensional map appeared showing the local galaxy. Red dots marked Harvester positions, but these dots were much bigger and more numerous than before. "The main fleet has over 100,000 ships," Jake continued. "They are moving toward the galactic core, where most of your civilizations have their home worlds." The chamber erupted in worried voices. 100,000 Harvester ships was beyond anything they had imagined. The Vorthic representative, now speaking for what remained of his species' military, stood on its metal legs. "How long do we have?" it asked. 2 weeks, Jake replied. "Maybe 3 if they stop to consume some of the outer planets on their way." "What can we do?" asked the Luminary representative. Her energy body flickered with fear. "If 50 human ships destroyed a smaller fleet, how many ships would you need to fight 100,000 Harvesters?" Jake was quiet for a moment. "When?" He spoke. His voice was calm, but serious. "We do not need more ships," he said. We need all of your ships to work with our ships. Elder Kothmiran leaned forward. You want to combine our fleets? Not combine, Jake corrected. Coordinate. Your ships and our ships fighting together, but using human tactics. Impossible, said the Nexari representative. Our ships cannot use your cloaking technology. Our weapons cannot create wormholes. How can we fight like humans? Dr. Amy Chun appeared on Jake's communication device. She looked tired but excited, like she had been working without sleep for days. We have been studying your ship designs, she said. With some modifications, we can adapt your vessels to work with our tactics. What kind of modifications? Asked Zethrak. Small wormhole generators installed on your ships, Amy explained. Not big enough for transportation, but big enough to make your weapons appear inside enemy vessels. Also quantum communication systems, so all ships can coordinate instantly across any distance. How long would these modifications take? Asked the Vorthik representative. We have already started, Jake said. Human engineering teams are standing by at 17 different shipyards across the galaxy. We can modify 1,000 ships per day. The chamber fell silent as the representatives did the math. Even working at maximum speed, they could only modify a fraction of the galactic fleet before the harvesters arrived. That is not enough ships, observed Elder Kothmiran. You are right, Jake agreed. Which is why we will not be fighting a defensive battle. What do you mean? Zethrak asked. Captain Steve Parker's voice came through the communication system. He was speaking from the bridge of his ship, somewhere in deep space. We are going to attack them first, Steve said simply. The alien representatives looked at each other with expressions of disbelief. Attack? Repeated the Luminary representative. Attack 100,000 ships with a few thousand modified vessels? Not attack their ships, Steve clarified. Attack their source. Jake nodded. Human scouts have tracked the main harvester fleet back to its origin point. We know where they are coming from. A new image appeared on the display. It showed a massive structure floating in empty space between galaxies. The structure was so large that planets could have fit inside it like marbles in a box. A harvester factory ship, Jake explained. This is where they build new vessels using the materials they consume from conquered worlds. As long as this factory exists, they can replace any ships we destroy. How do we attack something that size? Asked the Vorthik representative. Very carefully, Steve replied. And with a lot of explosives. Over the next week, the greatest fleet in galactic history assembled in the empty space near the galactic rim. Ships from every member species had been modified with human technology. Vorthik battle cruisers now carried wormhole generators. Luminary energy vessels had been fitted with quantum communicators. Even the ancient Kelthrin had updated their million-year-old designs with human innovations. But the real surprise was the human contribution to the fleet. How many ships did you say humanity is bringing? Zethrak asked during a planning meeting. 500 combat vessels, Jake replied. 500? The High Counselor was confused. Last week you had only 50 ships. Dr. Ben Hayes appeared on the communication screen. He was speaking from the secret facility in Nevada. We have been busy, he said with a tired smile. Humans work very fast when we are motivated. Where did you build so many ships so quickly? Asked Elder Kothmiran. We did not build them all on Earth, Ben explained. We have construction facilities. On the Moon, on Mars, in the asteroid belt, and in orbit around Jupiter. We have been preparing for this possibility for 15 years. Amy Chun added, also, human ships are much smaller than galactic vessels. We can build 10 human ships in the time it takes to build one Vorthik cruiser. The combined fleet was ready just in time. Long-range sensors detected the main harvester fleet approaching the outer colonies. All ships report ready, announced Admiral Krekstar, the Vorthik commander who had survived the first Harvester attack. He now served as overall fleet commander, but he followed tactical plans designed by humans. Begin the operation, Jake ordered. What happened next was unlike any space battle in galactic history. Instead of flying directly toward the Harvester factory ship, the combined fleet scattered in all directions. To outside observers, it looked like the Allied ships were fleeing in panic. But they were not fleeing. They were positioning themselves. Using human wormhole technology, ships could appear anywhere in the galaxy instantly. The scattered fleet was creating a network of jump points that surrounded the Harvester factory from every direction. Phase 1 complete, reported Captain Parker. All ships in position. Begin Phase 2, Jake ordered. Suddenly, the empty space around the Harvester factory filled with Allied ships. They appeared from every direction at once, materializing out of folded space like ghosts, becoming solid. The Harvester defenses, designed to stop attacks from one direction, could not handle simultaneous attacks from everywhere. Their weapons turned in confusion, trying to target enemies that kept disappearing and reappearing in new locations. Wormhole bombardment, begin, ordered Admiral Krekstar. The modified galactic ships opened fire, but their weapons did not travel through space. Instead, the energy beams and projectiles appeared directly inside the factory ship through tiny wormholes. The massive structure began to shake and buckle as explosions erupted throughout its interior. But it was too big to destroy quickly with conventional weapons. Time for the human solution, Steve Parker announced. The human ships, small and fast, darted between the factory's defensive weapons. They were not trying to destroy the structure with external attacks. They were looking for specific weak points that human analysis had identified. Found it, reported one of the human pilots. The main power coupling is exactly where the computer models predicted. All human ships converge on target, Steve ordered. 50 human vessels appeared around a small section of the factory ship's hull. It did not look important, just another piece of metal among millions of pieces. But human sensors had identified it as the connection point for the factory's main power systems. Synchronized railgun strike in 3.2.1 fire. 50 metal slugs, each moving at 30% of light speed, hit the same spot within a fraction of a second. The combined impact punched through the factory's hull and severed the power coupling inside. The effect was immediate and catastrophic. Harvester factory ship, which had been the size of a small moon, began to collapse in on itself. Without power to maintain its structural integrity, the massive construction simply fell apart under its own weight. Pieces of the factory scattered in all directions. Some pieces were as large as cities. Others were as small as cars. All of them were now useless debris floating in empty space. Factory ship destroyed, reported Admiral Krekstar. The Harvester fleet is cut off from reinforcement. Now we finish them, Jake said. The battle against the main Harvester fleet took 18 hours. 100,000 Harvester ships fought against 15,000 Allied vessels.